Hello, and thanks for watching. My name is Chris Geiser, and I'm here to tell you all about the experience of getting to Europe in 2021 for the cycling experience of a lifetime with GFNY. This covers a lot about GFNY France, GFNY Italia. We'll do this as a series to help break it down into reasonable chunks so that you can understand what the requirements are for getting to Europe and being able to have a cycling adventure at either GFNY Alpes Fauligny or at GFNY Italia in October, or at GFNY Grand Boulogne in July of next year, or whatever the GFNY calendar holds in Europe over the next year. So moving forward, about me, I am Chris Geiser. I am a GFNY ambassador and a member of Grupo Sportivo since 2019. I've done 15 GFNY races around the world in Argentina, France, Germany, Italy, Mexico, Portugal, and a number of them here in the US, including Florida and Santa Fe, as well as the GFNY NYC Championship. So I've been kicking around the GFNY peloton since about 2014 and traveling with GFNY globally since about 2015. And so I just have a lot to share, and I just love to be able to help anybody else that's interested in getting to Europe or getting anywhere across the globe. And we'll expand this series if everybody likes it, to getting to South America, getting to Asia, and getting to Mexico as well. So watch this video if you're exploring taking a trip to GFNY Europe for a race in 2021. If you've not traveled extensively to Europe and just need a few tips, or maybe you've traveled in Europe, but you need to understand what the new normal looks like that's associated with travel, or you just need the easy button on finding out, hey, what do I need? What do I need to be able to do this and travel with confidence, right? Later in the series, I hope to cover knowing the course, your bike and gearing choices. Those things are important, especially if you're going to go to someplace like the French Alps. Planning your connections and journey legs, which is actually more important a factor than you think in making life easier on yourself when you travel. Planning transfers, meaning rent-a-cars, cabs, van transfers, trains, or any journey legs that you would plan that go from your air travel to what your next destination is. Where to stay, of course, there are always great GFNY hotels that come at great rates, allow your bike inside, know how to treat GFNY riders. And then there are some easy alternatives if you prefer an apartment or some space for more people or whatever you want to do. What to bring, packing for success and enjoyment, and then some essential resources. All along the way, we'll provide essential resources that you can use on your own and use those to find anything else. So before we get into it, if you have any questions about this presentation or any of the other presentations in this series, please reach out to me at Chris, CHRIS, at gfny.com, or you can hit me on Facebook, or you can hit me on Twitter at thisgeyser, and I would be happy to answer any of the questions. These questions or this information is all compiled from my experiences with traveling for GFNY, and I've put a lot of thought and research into how that gets done and how I do those things. And so while it may not be the right formula for everybody, I feel like telling you what I know will help you make the best plan for you. And while I'm not a travel agent, I'm not a booking agent, I'm not a tour operator, I am somebody that's just, been through the ringer a few times on travel, and I know how things work. So first things first, get ready to pack. Europe is open. France and Italy are both open to US visitors. So there are some conditions that apply, but they're easy solves, and we'll explore those in this video today. The races are on for GFNY Alpes Fauligny, August 29th, 2021. GFNY Italia, October 17th, 2021 in beautiful Toscana. And then coming up next year, GFNY Grand Boulogne in the Alsace region, which is July 10th, 2022. And then, other races as they become available on the GFNY calendar. This set of tools that we're about to provide, I think, will really help you make plans for any and all of those races as they evolve. So first things first, you want to get registered. So if you haven't been to the GFNY portal, easy to find, gfny.cc, create your account if you haven't already. If you're already a GFNY racer, then I'm pretty sure that you probably have. So This is your link to registration for all things GFNY, group rides, races, any special events like GFNY Day. These are the places. This is the place where you find all of that. You can find what medals you've actually achieved, like 3-timer medals, 10-timer medals, all of the races that you've participated in, all of the upcoming races that you're registered for, and all of your results that you have for all of the races here. So sign up for the race here, as well as accessing your profile and all things GFNY. So let's get right into it. Traveling, let's face it, it's a new normal right now with COVID. While COVID is subsiding, it's not completely over. There are still some things to know about how different countries are reacting to this, but for the most part, France and Italy have both openly declared that it's open to US travel. I can confirm that France is open to US travel as I just got home. I'm actually still suffering my jet lag from the Vosgeny trip. So you need a document checklist that you should put together immediately, which is your passport. Just, this is just a good rule of thumb for travel in general. Make sure that you're more than 6 months until expiration before you travel. There are some countries that will not let you in if your passport is within 6 months of expiration. So make sure that you're ready to get that renewed, or if you need to, go through an expediter service, but you'll want to jump on that right now, especially with August 29th coming up. A health form. We'll get into the health form a little bit later. This is just a verification from your doctor that you're fit to race. You can also substitute the UCI license, but you cannot race without this. The Italian and French federations will not actually let you race unless they have this kind of a verification. Then your vaccination card or your vaccination passport. For those of us that live here in New York, we have the Empire Pass or the Excelsior Pass, which is a digital QR code version of your COVID vaccination verification. You also should have your paper vaccination card. In red, you must be vaccinated to travel to France or Italy from the USA unless it is considered to be essential travel. Now, while many of us consider bike racing to be essential travel, I can assure you that the French and Italian governments probably do not. So make sure that you have your vaccination in order. Now, practically speaking, whether this actually gets checked with every checkpoint, debatable. I can share some experiences on that, but having it is the most important thing. And then finally, a COVID PCR test. For France, it was 72 hours or 3 calendar days before traveling from the USA. You'll want to keep an electronic as well as multiple printed copies of your test results. Also of note, you will need a negative PCR test prior to returning to the US. You can get that in Europe. You can get it for free. I can give you some advice on getting to a lab. We'll do that in a later session. But I was able to get the test very easily, just had to do a little driving. And when I got there, it was very easy to get the test. I had a portal with my results. I was able to print them at my hotel, at my connection destination, and I was able to use that documentation to get back into the US. So, some considerations that you'll need: know the COVID rules on connecting cities and countries that you may travel through. Get a COVID PCR test here in the US in time for the results to be available when you fly, but close enough to fall within that 72-hour pre flight window. Some of the destinations actually call it 3 calendar days, 72 hours to be safe, but 3 calendar days is sort of a more relaxed way of saying that business hours is basically how they're framing that. And then plan a location for the test prior to leaving Europe. That's, like I said, required for re-entry into the USA. I will provide some locations in France where you can get the PCR test, and we'll look into some locations in Italy as well. So know before you go, USA is considered to be the orange zone as far as the countries of France and Italy are concerned, right? France and Italy are both Schengen Treaty countries. So once you pass through any other Schengen Treaty country, let's say like Portugal, I had just passed through Portugal, you will basically go through limited passport control when you arrive in France or Italy, but you may actually have your COVID documents inspected either by a federal police agency or by whoever it is that's policing that particular airport, as well as having those negative test documents inspected by the airport gate agents or the airport check-in agents. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the the airlines seem to be largely in control of testing or checking and verifying that the COVID test documents are in order, and then the authorities are actually looking at those in, I would say, more random types of places. So more on that in a minute. So France and Italy will require proof of vaccination for you to be a non-essential traveler, a negative COVID test. France, 72 hours. Currently, this is as of June 28th of 2021. Italy is requiring it within 48 hours. So please make note of that. You may need to find, an instant result PCR test to make that window, or some sort of proof of recovery from COVID and completion of required self-isolation, right? So that will actually substitute as a COVID test, but they want to have proof of that required self-isolation. My advice is to go with the test. The test will be the easiest thing for a non-native English speaking airport gate agent to actually look at and understand that you've met the requirement. So just make things as clear and easy for yourself as you possibly can. Then there's the matter of the European Digital Passenger Locator Form. This will likely be provided to you by your airline. They will ask you to fill out a form either online or on paper. So bring a pen. Always have a pen with you at as you travel to Europe, because there will be some kind of form for you to fill out that will require you to leave your name, your passport number, as well as some emergency contact information, and also your seat number on the plane. Now, from a privacy perspective, that information is reportedly not shared with anyone. They only use that information in the case that somebody on the plane has tested positive for COVID, and they use that for contact tracing to let you know that you ought to get tested or whatever else. Again, this is something that they will require you to either hand in, or you may need to actually show proof that you've done it. In my case, in my first leg to Portugal, I was able to actually show them the email verification that I had filled the form out online before I left. But as I traveled from Portugal to Lyon, France, I actually had to fill out another copy of the form to actually provide to the airline. So some resources there. This is Italy's latest rules over here in the top right. I can make this slide deck available to anybody that would like it. I can also post these links within the comments. But this is where all of the rules about returning to Italy are. There's a little wizard that you can go through, what country you're coming from, what countries you visited, and whether you're actually eligible to visit Italy, which practically everyone from the US is. This also is some EU information here on the middle bullet point, passenger locator information. This is basically what they're trying to accomplish in the contact tracing effort that we just spoke about. And then finally, French entry requirements provided by the US State Department. I personally find at this time that information from the US State Department is probably one of the best resources that you can have. And while they are warning you to reconsider your travel and whatever else, I would say that if you are a vaccinated traveler, that you probably have to worry less about the warnings, and probably worry just more about what rules they're stating or what links they're providing to other resources. So just go to the US State Department website. You can just, enter that in the search engine, just enter US Department of State. When you get to the site, make sure it's the US Department of State site, and then look for the travel advisories for the country that you're going to be visiting. So practically speaking, it looks a whole lot more difficult than it is, right? The airlines are taking on the responsibility of checking your COVID compliance, which means that rather than this being a big to-do, you are actually verifying this with airplane gate agents, or you're verifying this with airplane or airline check-in agents. Keep your documents handy at all times. They will be reviewed at check-in by gate agents, and by passport control in each country you pass through. Now, back to that Schengen Treaty, as I recently traveled through Portugal, when we landed in Lisbon on my way back to the US, my COVID paperwork was actually checked by the federal police before they actually allowed me to enter the airport. So we got off the bus from the plane back to the main terminal, and the federal police were there waiting for us to inspect our documents. They had 7 police officers there inspecting the document. Now, it wasn't any big deal. It wasn't a shakedown. It wasn't any kind of a big deal. It was just basically, okay, here's my passport, here's my boarding pass, here's my COVID document. It was one more piece of paper to show them so that they could verify that they were only letting people that were eligible to fly into the airport. So it brings up an interesting point, though, because you want to plan to connect through a country that follows a similar policy to your destination, right? So in my case, Portugal was espousing very similar policies to France, and so I was able to maintain some consistency throughout that process of what I had to show, when I had to show it, who I had to show it to. So when I finally arrived in Lyon, passport control took a fast look at everything, but they basically were working under the assumption that the airlines and the Portuguese the Portuguese passport control folks had actually looked at everything. So the other piece of this is that your airline, which unless you are flying one of the larger carriers, United, American, Delta, if your airline is a nationalized airline like TAP Portugal or Air France or Alitalia, those airlines will actually have very good information on their websites about what's required and when it's required. For the race, you will need a health form, like we talked about. It's required by the European country federations, France, Italy, Portugal. It's also required at GFNY races in South America. But what it is a verification from your doctor that you are fit to race, right? It's an easy thing to get. It's a short form. You bring it to your doctor when you get your physical, and you can actually have it valid for a year, that you've met the requirements to be able to race safely, that you're fit enough to race. Alternatively, through USA Cycling, you can purchase an international license. You can see mine right here. I have a UCI ID here, which actually provides me international authorization to race and actually substitute for that health card. So depending on what kinds of fees you pay for your physical every year, or what kind of a pain in the neck it is to get to the doctor and get that health form, filled out, or what your work schedule allows, or anything else, the UCI license will pay for itself after 2 European races in comparison with doctor visits, and it's renewable each year. Now, that said, if you have any questions about whether you're fit enough to race, you should see your doctor, right? I would never discourage anyone from seeing their doctor, but the UCI license is a nice alternative to having to have that paperwork filled out each time you go. Usually it's available from USA Cycling within 48 hours of sign up, and actually it supports USA Cycling, so it's not too bad. So summing this all up, get registered for the race at gfny.cc, book your travel and flights, know the rules of your connection cities, countries, and your destination. Verify your travel documents, passport, health form, UCI license, get your COVID test according to the rules of your connection and destination locations, and get packing, get ready to fly. So next up on this series, we'll check out the course, or we'll look into how we can check out the course. You'll know the course and how to prepare for it. Checking out the GFNY camps. The acclimatization cannot be understated, especially if you're going to the French Alps. Helping you choose your bike and gearing, and getting your packing list together. The series overall will cover a lot of great ground. Thanks for watching. I hope that this is helpful.